On December 1st, 2023, the Pac-12 as we know it will hold its final football championship. After over 100 years of play, the Conference of Champions will see 10 schools leave in favor of more lucrative athletic conferences. So, how did the Pac-12 collapse? Well, it all started with a guy named Larry.
Breaking news, the Big Ten is getting bigger.
All right, so it all started with Larry Scott, the previous commissioner.
This is such a significant move because the Pac-12, unfortunately, was just simply drifting off toward Hawaii as an eyesore. And with this
What we now know is the Pac-12 was founded as the Pacific Coast Conference in 1915 and featured 4 schools: UC Berkeley, Oregon, Oregon State, and Washington. After adding Washington State, Stanford, USC, and UCLA over the next 50 years, the conference became known as the Pacific 8 Conference in 1968. 10 years later, Arizona and Arizona State joined to form the Pacific 10. This coalition of 10 schools then remained the same for over 30 years, until longtime Pac-10 Commissioner Thomas Hansen retired in 2009. Replacing him was Women's Tennis Association head Larry Scott, and his arrival coincided with a revolution in the world of conference realignment. What drives all this realignment is what is known as the Power 5 conferences. The Pac-12 is one of them, and they're joined by the Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, and ACC. Now, the Big 10 and Big 12 are separate conferences, and neither one has consistently remained at 10 and 12 member schools. That's confusing, but all you really need to know is that these 5 hold the golden tickets of college sports. Everyone wants one. In late 2009, the Big 10 had decided to pursue expansion from their current 11-school structure, potentially poaching schools from the Big 12 in the process. On June 6, 2010, the Pac-10 made its move in the realignment wars. Larry Scott met with 6 other Big 12 schools in an attempt to make a super conference, a Pac-16. Just 4 days later, one of the schools in the rumored Pac-16, the University of Colorado, officially joined the Pac-10, and Scott declared it a new day for the conference. The Pac-16 deal would ultimately fall through, but the Pac-10 would still add the University of Utah just a few days later. It was a wild time for college sports that saw a national reshuffling of schools everywhere from Texas A&M to Rutgers. But Larry Scott and the Pac-10 managed to not only keep their original schools and survive, but to grow into the Pac-12. All they had to do now was maintain this power and expand on it. And the key to doing that was television. In the current TV landscape, sports are more important to major networks than ever, meaning they need to pay up. Scott and the Pac-12 were well aware of this, so they moved quickly to sign a 12-year, $3 billion deal with ESPN and Fox in May 2011. Just a couple months later, the Pac-12 announced the formation of their own group of TV networks to cover everything ESPN and Fox wouldn't. The conference also announced that they would own and operate the network by itself. Perfect, right? Not quite. 2 rival conferences, the SEC and Big Ten, also launched networks, but they chose to partner with ESPN and Fox to make them. By 2014, the SEC network had 75 million subscribers, the Big Ten network had 60 million, and the Pac-12 networks had just 26 million. The Pac-12's offering had 2 major problems. One, a stalemate with cable carrier DirecTV meant that a huge number of college football fans weren't even able to subscribe. Then there was the Pac-12 network's lack of a major media partner, which meant the Pac-12 had to build their own network from scratch when it didn't have to. While their independence had the potential to bring in more money, it instead brought additional expenses and less exposure on major sports networks for no reason. Then there were the other expenses. The Pac-12 San Francisco headquarters opened as a studio for the Pac-12 networks in 2011 and became the full-time base of operations in 2014. These headquarters cost the conference a staggering $92 million in rent before they moved out in 2023. This $8.35 million per year of rent looks even worse when compared to the SEC headquarters cost of $318,000 a year. Scott's own salary was another hefty expense, $4.8 million a year in 2018, which doubled the pay of Big Ten counterpart Jim Delaney. This combination of lackluster TV numbers and high expenses was made even worse by the Pac-12's football teams. Since the college football playoff was founded in 2014, Pac-12 teams have combined to win 0 championships and have only made it to the national championship game once as of this recording. As the 2020s began, college football's most dominant conference was the SEC. They had appeared in all but one of the national championships since 2014, so they signed a $3 billion deal with ESPN in the middle of a global pandemic. Meanwhile, Larry Scott left the Pac-12 in disgrace in the summer of 2021. He wouldn't escape blame for what came after. To replace Larry Scott, the Pac-12 hired George Kliavkoff in 2021. Just 3 weeks into his tenure, it was reported that Oklahoma and Texas were going to leave the Big 12 for the SEC in 2025. All of a sudden, conference realignment was a national story again, and the Big 12 was vulnerable. The Pac-12 chose not to act aggressively, instead forming an alliance with the Big 10 and ACC, the other major conferences not directly affected by the deal. That alliance was broken less than 1 year later when the Big 10 announced USC and UCLA as their newest members. Meanwhile, the Big 12 signed a 6-year, $2.28 billion deal with ESPN and Fox in September of 2022. The Pac-12's own TV deal was scheduled to expire in 2024, meaning Kliavkoff and his team needed to move to save his conference's future, and soon. Kliavkoff was scheduled to make a presentation on a new TV deal on August 2, 2023, to the remaining 10 schools. But Colorado didn't wait to hear it, bolting for the Big 12 on July 27th. The presentation was still made, and it offered a new deal that was reported to center around a deal with Apple TV+. But the numbers weren't enough to convince many of the remaining 9 schools. You might know the rest. Oregon and Washington left for the Big 10 on August 4th. Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah joined the Big 12 that same day. Stanford and UC Berkeley announced their ACC memberships just a few weeks later. This left just 2 universities in the once mighty Pac-12, Oregon State and Washington State. In a statement on August 4th, the conference stated their focus on securing the best possible future for each of our member universities. 2023 to 24 would be the final academic year for 10 of the Pac-12 schools, the clear end of a long era. A collegiate conference does not just disappear. A perfect storm of missed opportunities, aggressive rivals, needless expenses, and football failure spelled the end for one of sports' oldest governing bodies. If there's one thing to remember from this decade-long story, it's this: the Pac-12 was built by people, by champions, and destroyed by money. Thanks for watching.